Mr. Mayor, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Development Service Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Just to start off, I want to pass on that Deputy Mayor Lavoie sends his regrets tonight. He's unable to attend. And a few house cleaning items, or housekeeping, not cleaning. I think you got the gist of it. So please ensure your cell phones are turned off while in chambers. Members of the public speaking at the podium, when you come to the podium, please adjust the mic so you're speaking directly in it, as this meeting is being recorded and live streamed, as well as it will be put on YouTube after for people to view. I know I don't have to say this, but I will because it's written down. The public shall respect the decorum of the meeting, refrain from public outburst or behavior intended to disrupt the discussion, respect and dignity and rights of all persons present, and not ridicule, demean, or intimidate any persons. See, I told you that was unnecessary. Do I get agreement? Thank you. Okay. The Township of Oro-Medonte acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people and an ancestral territory of the Huron-Wendat. The Anishinaabe include the Odawa, the Ojibwa, and the Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. It continues today as the home for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the historic Métis community in Penetanguishene. The Anishinaabe people continue to have an enduring relationship with this land, specifically the Chippewas or Rama First Nations, the Chippewa Tri-Council, and the Williams Treaties First Nations. The Huron-Wendat Nation also continues to pay respect and protect their ancestors and heritage on this land. We honor the Indigenous history and culture that has thrived for millennia in this territory and the treaties that bind us together as partners in the spirit of a shared, sustainable, and prosperous future. We are all treaty people. Our commitment begins with acknowledging the truth so that we can move forward in reconciliation. Miigwech. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Bard. It is recommended that the agenda for the Development Services Committee meeting of Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 be received and approved.
All in favor? That is carried. Is there any pecuniary interest to disclose at this time of members? Seeing none. May we have a motion to approve the draft minutes of the previous Development Service Committee meeting, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Young, seconded by Hutchison. It is recommended that the draft minutes of the Development Services Committee meeting held on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025 be received and approved as printed and circulated.
Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes anyone has? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We are now at section 5, public meetings. So before we start, I just want to give an explanation of the process. I will briefly summarize the procedure to be utilized for the meeting. Each application will be considered separately. The staff will advise the purpose and effect of the application, provide any relevant information, note any correspondence that has been received to date, and advise the statement received from the applicant, or if the applicant intends to make a presentation. If so, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make a brief presentation. After the presentation, any members of the public that have been registered to provide comments or are in the audience will be given the opportunity to speak to the application being considered. The Deputy Clerk will advise of those who have registered, and finally staff will confirm if any correspondence has been received during the public hearing. There will be a separate statement to be read at the start of each scheduled public meeting and hearing. So the first public meeting is scheduled for 5:30. Application number 2025 ZBA-36, applicant Truax Natural Burial Lands Canada, municipal address 6580 Line 2 North. This public meeting is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain a public comments with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment application 2025 ZBA-36 submitted by Douglas and Ann Truax on lands municipally known as 6580 Line 2 North. Please be advised this meeting is being digitally recorded for the purpose of a creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Service Committee make a decision on the zoning bylaw amendment application. Madam Clerk, are there any correspondence received on this matter?
Yes, correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, September 11. Steve Snow and Denise LeBlanc, September 14. Sharon Foster, September 15. County of Simcoe Transportation and Engineering Department, September 16. Enbridge Gas, September 17. The following dated September 18. Alyssa Doran, Elaine Massey, and the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. The following dated September 19, Sherilyn Harkness, Linda McDowell, and Neil and Rachel McFadden. Correspondence from W. Simpkin, Concerned Citizens, dated April 27, 2025, and petition received September 19, 2025. The following dated September 20, Ann Truex, Stephen McDowell, Brian and Lynn Marshall, Rita and Randy Pinkney, Nis Fenner. The following dated September 21, Alberta Minnings, Brenda Nightingale. The following dated September 22, Jacqueline Damas, Jason Damas, Mindy Wiltshire Gibson, Steph Whalen. The following dated September 23rd, Carolyn Tracy Pegg, Darlene Eakley, Jody Broussard, Violet IQ. The following dated September 24, Ashley Jones, Gord Eakley, David J. Hawk, Doug Truex, Marilyn Pillar. The following dated September 25th, Kimberly Burgess, Chris McDowell, Lauren Van Sinclair, Courtney Visser, Mary Van Sinclair, Quinn Song Zhao, Brian and Patricia Scott, and Sarah Patterson. The following dated September 26, Nancy Cross and Judith Woke. The following dated September 27, Jody Broussard, Michelle Luke, Rebecca Truax, Sean Wilson, Donna Eakley, Danielle Grenier, Janet Jones, Paige Davies, Tanya Davies. The following dated September 28, April Petrie, Deborah Lockhart. The following dated September 29, Michael Eakley, Bob and Sue Patterson, Sandy Agnew and Lynn Melnick, Andrea Simpson, Andrea Warren, Ellen Bateman, Patricia McDowell, Grant and Darlene Robinson. The following dated September 30, David Bain, Brian Morris, Kathy Hunt, Brock McKinney, Jamie King, Louise Gibson, Marilyn Clark, Ron and Donna McFadden. The following dated October 1st, Adam Bays, Melanie Buck, Samantha Walsh, Jeff and Chantel Banks, Tom and Laura Adams, Sean Quisnell, and Township of Oro-Medonte Community Services, dated October 1st, 2025.
That's it?
Yes.
Thank you. I will now turn the meeting over to Mary Feely, agent, who will explain the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application and any written statement received from the applicant. Welcome.
Thank you. I believe there's a presentation that's going to, oh, there it is. So thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I'm Mary Feely, and I'm a senior planner at SGL Planning, but also a longtime resident of Simcoe County. And it's my pleasure to be here tonight representing Natural Burial Lands Canada, which is a charitable organization. Many members of the board are here this evening, should there be any questions that warrant their response. Next slide. So tonight's presentation, I'll try and be as brief as I can, is going to review the purpose, the site, surrounding area, the proposal, policy considerations, technical studies to date, as well as comments and next steps. Next, please. So the purpose is really to introduce the public and council to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment submitted September 2nd to establish a natural burial ground on the subject lands, creating a forever home for full body and cremated remains in a natural setting. a gathering place for loved ones, as well as providing for administrative and office uses, as well as trails. And really key to the whole proposal is the ecological protection and restoration across the site. Next. So the site is about 38 hectares located on the south side of AC Road. There is a residential dwelling and associated infrastructure at the northeast corner of the property. There's no change proposed to that. Then moving west, there is a wooded wetland. Again, there's no change proposed. Moving further west, central to the site is the barn and structures, where there's a former dairy farm, and there were livestock and quota that have since been sold, and then 2 fields that were previously used for crop production. Next slide. So really the rezoning request is to preserve, as mentioned, preserve the agricultural rural zone in the northeastern corner of the property where the dwelling currently is. The EP zone that exists today doesn't really reflect the full extent of the natural features, so the proposal includes an expanded EP zone to capture the fullness of that wooded wetland. And then maintaining the agricultural rural zone, but adding a site-specific permission to allow for a natural burial ground, which would be a cemetery under the Cemeteries Act, as well as that gathering place for loved ones, the potential for banquet facilities, as well as administrative and office. The parking will be met, if not exceeded, to ensure just the overall positive functioning of the site. Setbacks, height are all met. Next slide. So what we're showing here is the master plan, which has been informed by the technical studies that I'll speak to in a minute. But what you're seeing, and I will start with the images in the top left corner. Sorry, it's hard to look up. So what you see there is, as you enter off AC Road, is a sort of memorial garden, which will provide winter interest all year round, as well as memorialize those that have passed. And then the existing dairy farm is proposed to be converted to the gathering place and pull from the sort of rural character of the area and be designed outwardly in accordance with a traditional farmhouse that you would see with the wraparound porch. And then moving to the bottom right, you see the pathways that would be maintained and expanded through the forest, and pavilions or seating areas. And then continuing along the bottom, there's more meadows to attract wildlife habitat, insects, pollinators, and also be in the areas of green and brown, the areas of the burials. Brown being denoting the cremation areas. And then in the bottom left corner is an area where ecological harvesting of willow trees are proposed to then be able to create biodegradable willow caskets for use on the property. So this describes what it might look like, but what actually is a burial ground might be a question that people are asking. And a natural burial ground still operates under the same regulations as a conventional cemetery. But what's different about it is you don't see manicured yards with headstones. You don't see driveways networking through to accommodate vehicles. And you don't have the remains of people buried there that are embalmed. As what happens instead is that the meadowlands that you're seeing with the green and the brown, are maintained as meadowlands to attract those species that I spoke about, and then the memorialization of those that have passed gets captured in that communal garden that is closest to AC Road. Next. So I've described what is a natural burial ground. This really describes why. Why is a natural burial ground appropriate here? Broadly speaking, there is a shortage of cemetery lands in Ontario and beyond. I think it would not be unnoticed that there has been a focus on the province for more homes. The Build More Homes Act, the Cut Red Tape for More Homes Act, there's been a lot of focus on building more homes for a growing population, but there hasn't been a parallel focus on housing and providing forever homes to the deceased. So this is reported 10 years ago by CBC that there's a shortage of cemetery space, and it continues with just earlier this year, Global News reporting the same. More locally, the natural burial ground is a growing option. It's growing in popularity across all genders, all ages, all levels of education, all levels of household income. It is a growing option, and there just simply isn't an option in Simcoe County. So this would be the first natural burial ground provided to residents of Simcoe County, and specifically Oro. Anyone wishing to have a natural burial for a loved one needs to leave the county in order to provide that. Next, the property itself is an ideal property in that it is outside of the prime agricultural areas that have been mapped by the province and the county. It preserves the rural character, which is being done through the retention of the topography, the retention of the dairy barn itself, and conversion to the gathering place. It provides extensive ecological benefits through the preservation of the existing features, as well as the introduction of new habitat for endangered species or species at risk, such as meadowlark, such as monarch butterflies, and the list goes on. And it provides a local amenity for the long term for the community. These lands will be preserved in perpetuity as natural open space, and there is a dedication by this organization to ensure that residents from here have a place at this natural burial ground through a price structure, and there may be other means, but certainly the price structure is going to be set such that anyone outside of the area is looking at least double the fees. Next slide. So, wearing my planning hat, the applications, how does the zoning bylaw application meet the provincial policy statement that was released by the province in 2024? And all municipal decisions need to be consistent with that document. Can you hear me okay? Back up. You can hear me? Is this better? Okay. So the 2024 PPS, to which all decisions made by your worship and council need to be consistent with, they specifically have identified cemeteries starting back in 2014 as contributing towards complete communities. So rural areas are included in the permissions for cemeteries, and there is a desire to see cemeteries being planned alongside homes, businesses, shops, etc. The proposal, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, will also create a natural open space and trails in a natural setting, which is also a key direction of the provincial policy statement, and help with reducing greenhouse gases by protecting that wooded wetland, as well as introducing trees and grassland. And as you'll see later in the environmental study that was done, it also meets the natural heritage policies without any adverse impacts on natural features, and allows for the protection and enhancement of the ecological integrity of the property. Next. The county official plan, approved in 2016 and consolidated to 2023, designates the property rural and greenlands. County staff have reviewed it and have no concerns from a planning perspective. Cemeteries are permitted use in the rural designation, and the greenlands designation will be protected for the long term. It is outside of any of the prime agricultural mapping. The map in the bottom left corner, the, I guess, manila colored denotes what is considered prime agricultural lands, and the pink denotes what is being considered to be removed or refined out of the prime agricultural lands of the county. But the subject lands and immediately surrounding properties are outside of that prime agricultural overlay. So yes, so the application meets the County of Simcoe official plan. Next slide. In terms of the local official plan, again, the property is designated rural, as well as a portion EPA, that green portion on the far right corner. The application meets the criteria for considering an institutional use in the rural area. They've submitted a zoning bylaw amendment application. It contributes to the rural character, as noted in the conversion of the existing dairy barn and the preservation of the landform and its open space character. There's no impacts to the agricultural community. An MDS report has been prepared and submitted to reflect and support that. Safe access, and there isn't any anticipated adverse traffic impacts on Vasey Road, as supported in the traffic impact study. And significant buffering, including enhanced plantings, is proposed to adjacent uses. The application meets the EPA policies by protecting and enhancing the features and their functions, and no official plan amendments required to consider a cemetery here. Next. So earlier I differentiated between what a natural burial ground is and a conventional cemetery, and here I'd like to highlight some of the similarities. So both a natural burial ground and a conventional cemetery operate under the same regulations, the FBCSA spelled out above, and where it's legislated that there be 3x8 plots, the proposal is actually proposing larger plot sizes, being 4x8 feet, and whereas the regulations require minimum 2 feet deep burials, the proposal is for minimum 3.5 feet deep burials. There is the same licensing and monitoring under the Bereavement Authority of Ontario as for conventional cemeteries, and through the Natural Burial Association, they are members of the Ontario Association of Funeral Professionals. Next slide. So there's been a lot of interest in this unusual application, so I felt it merited that just to review at a high level that the extent to which this has been studied by qualified professionals. So first would be the environmental impact study that was prepared by ecologist Neil Morris, who concludes that all development and burials are occurring outside of the provincially significant wetland, which include that wetlands include significant habitat within it, including black ash and bats. There'll be no adverse environmental impacts, but rather ecological gains through the enhancement of the EP protection zone and introduction of meadow plantings that will attract other species at risk. The traffic study prepared by Tedesco Engineering looked at the highest potential for burials, including a more urban cemetery in Victoria on Mother's Day, and after 30 days anticipates that that the proposed application will more than meet the parking. By 80 years, it'll continue to meet the proposed parking, that the existing road network can handle the proposed use without any needed improvements, without any adverse impacts. A hydrogeology study was prepared by GSS Engineering, and they assessed the hydrological setting, established the seasonal high water tables across the site, determined groundwater flow direction, assessed potential impacts of the proposed natural burial ground on the local groundwater and surface water resources. And their conclusion was that the natural burial ground can be developed and operated without adverse impact on local groundwater and surface water resources. 2 phases of an archaeological study was undertaken by S&G Archaeological Consulting and did not reveal any archaeological resources and is cleared of any further archaeological concern. And a minimum distance separation was prepared by Orion Environmental Solutions and identified that the proposal meets and exceeds all setback requirements and that no anticipated land use conflict with nearby livestock operations, and that the development can proceed from an MDS perspective. Next slide. In addition to your typical Planning Act circulations, notifications, etc., NBLC has been very busy consulting and engaging those who may be interested or perceived to be impacted by the proposal. And this list on the slide above includes direct community consultation outside of the Planning Act, outside of an application in April, and then again in September. Engagement with the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, cemetery consultants, the risk management officer for Severn Sound Environmental Association, the Huron-Wendat Nation, who now are located in Quebec and have not expressed an interest at this time in the project, but MBLC continue to follow up with local Indigenous groups. Simcoe Muskoka Health District Unit, Township staff, County of Simcoe staff, and then here tonight at the public meeting. Next slide. And there's been a lot of public feedback. I believe, I know we don't have all of them because they were still coming in today, but we're certainly around the 55 letters that have been submitted in association with this application. And at last count, 47 were in support. And here above is the themes of which the public are expressing support for the application. So preservation of the landscape, the environmental benefits, alignment with community values, particularly the notion of giving back to nature, the economic and community benefits, and the opportunity to have a more affordable end-of-life option. Some of the concerns that were expressed, and I should note one of those letters of concern included a petition, was the loss of agricultural land. And as we've demonstrated, these lands are outside of prime agricultural areas, and their value for agricultural purposes have been limited by the sale of the quota and livestock. So it's really a limited area of cultivated meadow that could be potentially used. And so that concern about agricultural land loss is really minor and doesn't reflect the fact that this really is a rural property where such uses are permitted at the different levels of the policy framework, which I already took everyone through. Another concern is groundwater and environmental risks. As our qualified experts have shown, there will be no impact associated with drilled wells. There are setbacks. The landscape plan that I showed earlier was informed by the setbacks to wells and the setbacks from any high water groundwater levels in the site. The groundwater levels vary across the site, as is normal, and in some areas that water table is 50 feet deep. That master plan that we showed really takes into account all of those technical findings to ensure that where burial grounds are proposed are outside of the high water table, outside of setback from wells. Wildlife and animal disturbance is another concern, but there is no evidence to support that natural burial grounds have ever attracted scavengers, and the burials that are occurring at deeper levels than the regulations require. Traffic and infrastructure, again, we've shown that the traffic study that has been prepared by a traffic engineer shows that the existing road network can handle the capacity anticipated without road improvements, that there's safe site access, and that there's more than sufficient parking being proposed. And there's also a concern about community consultation. However, as I've shown in the earlier slide, there's been a lot of consultation. The charitable organization of MBLC is really looking to work with the community, work with the farmers in the area, and ensure that their needs come before the needs of the natural burial lands. Next. So next steps. So tonight we're here at the public meeting for the rezoning. We'll hear, we've received comments to date. We expect that we'll receive additional comments, and there'll be an opportunity to respond to those comments before coming back to council at a later date. There's also a requirement that this proceed by way of site plan application, which will involve more detailed plans with regard to the conversion of the agricultural building, landscape plans, technical review by departments, as well as site plan agreement. And there's a BAO application, or bereavement authority application required for a license to operate the natural burial grounds, as well as a care and maintenance trust of $165,000 in trust available at the time that the natural burial ground would start operating, to ensure that it is cared and maintained into the long into the future. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have regarding this very exciting and interesting application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Feely. So council or committee members, as this is a committee meeting, is there any questions for Ms. Feely or staff at this time? Ms. Councillor Hutchison?
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to Ms. Fahili. Thank you very much. I had lots of questions when I was reading about this, and of course I've read the correspondence because clearly this is of interest to a lot of people. And you did answer a lot of the questions, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't know much about natural burial myself, so bear with me. You did make a statement that there's been no kind of scavenging of any of the buried remains. Is that like across the board 100%? There's never been anything like that happen? Because I've noted a lot of comments. People were concerned about the depth of the burial and the attraction of scavenger animals and etc. So maybe you could just expand on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, through your worship. Great question. Natural burial grounds, while somewhat new to the Canadian landscape, are not new to the American or European, particularly England. So natural burial grounds have been operating there for some time, and some of the natural burial ground operators or those experienced operators from the US have been consulted for this. So based on our research, there is nothing to support. There are natural burial grounds happening and have been happening for some time in other countries, and there is no evidence to suggest that scavengers are a concern. And further, that the depth of the burials far exceed what the minimum is by current legislation. So between those two, there is no concern and no evidence of scavengers.
Supplemental.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you. And then the other concern was around the water table and perhaps impacting the water table, but it's more of a comment than it is a question. It was a dairy operation in the past that would have housed several, if not maybe 100 dairy cattle, and that if there was to be an impact on the water table, I think a farming operation would certainly have had an impact. And if there hasn't been, I don't see how this would change that.
And impact is a tricky word, right? Because there's impacts associated with everything when there's a change. So there's impacts to potential groundwater from a residential septic system. There's potential impacts. So really it's being able to study where the water table is, which has been done across the site, and any area that could potentially expose risk to the groundwater gets eliminated. And there's not, of the research that's been done by the hydrogeologist and by the team, cemeteries have a very low history of impact at all to the groundwater because there is that separation that is built in between the groundwater and the burials. So impacts to the groundwater has been thoroughly investigated and determined there not to be a risk or a concern here of impacts to the groundwater.
Councillor Bard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I find this very intriguing, and thank you for your very detailed report. I guess some questions about the natural burials, and then you brought up the United States and Europe, and I've heard that maybe in some European countries, your cemetery plot is only for 20 years kind of thing, and then somebody else could be buried on top of you, where it seems here in North America or in Ontario anyway, you have this plot forever, and we have people that their family's long gone, and now we're in a situation where we don't have a lot of space. Is there, I guess, do these graves have a specific marker on them and they have this territory for life, or is there, say, in 20, 30, or 40 years, the opportunity to, I don't want to seem insensitive, but sort of stack bodies, so we're maximizing this space, so that it just seems like this is something that could be sustainable for a very, very long time. So I think I'm asking, is there a permanent marker that people are going to have territory forever, or could there be this sort of renewal? And yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, through your workshop, certainly working on this project has opened a lot of morbid questions, certainly. And what the term is called is grave renewal or plot renewal. And while, yes, those opportunities do exist here, that's not something that is legislatively permitted at this time, although it would be something that would be amazing to see from a purely environmental and giving back and not consuming land indefinitely. No, while there won't be individual markers because it will be a meadow, there will be plots that, like a condo plan, that is assigned. So there will be a plan, and there will be the 4x8 section of land that will be owned by the deceased or their family. And then the memorialization would be in that garden, a memorialization garden or some other way of memorializing. But yeah, grapefruit, that is not an option right now.
Councillor Young?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Did I hear you right? You said the water table is 50 feet down. Is that correct? Did I hear you properly with that?
In some areas, through your worship, I'm sorry, and through some areas it's quite deep, and in other areas it's shallow, but it varies across the site, as does the topography.
When you say shallow, what are you talking? How deep is that? You know, if you don't know at this point, I mean that's fine.
No, through your worship, there's areas where the groundwater is pretty much at ground level where the wetland is, right? So what has been in terms of the hydro-G study that was done, there was a minimum distance set between where the groundwater table was identified and where a burial could happen. And if it didn't meet that separation, that area was struck out for potential for burials so as to preserve the groundwater table.
Supplemental?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. There's EP land there, right? And is there surface water, a stream going through there, or at all? My concern, the reason I'm asking this is whatever's decaying, I guess, could it migrate to that surface water?
Through your worship, there is not a stream, and there is what the ecologist describes as wet woodland. Yeah. And in terms of migrating, that's why it has been carefully looked groundwater flow as well as groundwater depth to ensure that any areas where there would be potential for burials there would not be infiltration into the groundwater. So it's not just the depth, it's also the groundwater flow, and so that there isn't migration.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like one more, Councillor Young?
Yes, I would.
Please go ahead then. Just continue until you're done, and then that's fine with me.
You better go for coffee. Listen, what happens to the ashes? I mean, are you going to have a structure to put those in like you see around graveyards, or is it, are they going in the ground too?
Through your worship, the plan is for the cremated remains to be buried as well.
And how much land is that going to take up? I'm just curious about that because it's a small amount of ashes to.
Thank you. As informed by the NBLC, a 2-by-2 foot area.
Well, just one more question. Thank you, Mayor. Listen, I've been reading about this, and I don't think it's going to happen here, but I've been reading where I guess family members of deceased, not the deceased, but have an option, I guess, of a natural decomposition in trees or on the ground in a forest. Is that not taking place here?
Through your worship, there will be trees planted, and there will be, it comes down to where is it appropriate based on groundwater and also based on roots and based on the EP zone and being outside of that. So if there is an area that can accommodate it, probably more of a cremated remain size as opposed to a full burial plot, that would be looked at and that could be incorporated. It is something that is desired by people, but it would only be done in a very sensitive way to the groundwater and to the environment.
Okay, thank you for all your answers there.
Thank you.
Councillor Schell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw, through you to our speaker. You mentioned about the plots and somehow they need to be maintained. Is that going to be maintained by the cemetery board, if you call it that, or is it the heirs need to come in and take care of it? And I'm thinking about 30 years down the road from now.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, that's a great question, and I did not cover that, so I apologize. No, the NBLC will have staff that will be maintaining the property. The idea with the meadow plantings and the tree plantings would be that it be as natural as possible, but there will still need to be maintenance, and that would be done for as long as that cemetery or natural burial ground is in operation. And then after that, there is that fund, the care and maintenance fund of $165,000 that remains in trust to the township.
Thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Members of council, is there any other questions at this time for Ms. Feely or staff? Seeing none, so now we'll move to the public portion. I want to ask the township staff to advise of those from the public via Zoom or in person that have registered to speak to the application. We will hear from each person that has registered to speak. Madam Clerk, could you please advise the first speaker?
We've received 6 registrations, Mr. Chair, but just to confirm first, Doug Truex had also registered to confirm if comments would be coming from Mr. Truex.
Your Worship, excuse me, Your Worship, a member of council. My name is Doug Truax. My wife Ann and I are the owners of the property at 6580 Line 2 North, Lot 75 of Oro-Medonte. I have lived on this farm for 74 years. Along with my wife, we have raised 3 children. We hope to pass it on to them. When we made the hard decision to sell our property in 2023, our hopes were that someone would purchase the small farm and continue it to work it. We offered a large home, a new barn, dairy cattle, a milk quota, land and machinery. We received no offers that would allow us to retire with any adequate income. And as you know, farmers' future is based on what they work up as they live the farm, not later on. Later, we were approached by Natural Burial Lands of Canada to purchase our property for a natural cemetery. This would give us the retirement income that we needed and ensure that the beauty of our land would be protected forever. No houses blocking the view, no solar panels covering the land. When I think of the flowers, the bees, the butterflies, the birds, the trees that will cover this land, it brings peace to my mind, knowing that my resting place will be where I have lived all my life. I hope you will see the future value in this land as a natural burial cemetery and pass the zoning changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Truax. Madam Clerk?
The first registration is Miranda DePensier.
Should I just do, it can be every 20 seconds or I can go like this. Okay, I'm just gonna go like this.
Okay. Just adjust the mic because I want to make sure I hear you. The Carol Burnett thing is good though. I do like that.
You like that?
Yeah.
I just came up with that. Your Worship and members of the council, my name is Miranda DePontier, and I own a tree farm with my brother just south of Highway 89 near 50 in Simcoe County. My dad died a year ago, and it was very important for him to have a natural burial. He asked to be buried in a simple shroud that would not harm the plants, animals, or trees around him. My immediate family and I all brought our own shovels. We spent 2 hours filling my dad's grave with a lot of sweat and tears. And then we planted trees and flowers around him that he loved so much. To be honest, I was surprised when my dad first brought up this idea of natural burial. I never heard of it. I didn't even know if it was possible because I'd only ever been to funerals that were formal. But for my family of 10, from my 87-year-old mother to my 19-year-old nephew, burying my dad ourselves was one of the most profound experiences of my life. Look, none of us want to think about death, right? And planning ahead can feel really uncomfortable. But the physical act of returning my dad to the earth with our own hands was intimate, it was beautiful, and it was deeply healing. And it kept us closer to him and easier to process our grief. I now tell all of my friends that to bury a parent this way was so meaningful, and I encourage them all to do the same. My only regret is that my dad couldn't be buried near his beloved tree farm in Simcoe County. And instead, we had to find a natural site in Coburg, which is far away from all of us. So I support a natural burial site here to benefit the farms and community around us all who might like the option of a natural burial closer to our own backyards. My dad might also add, if he were here, not only is the natural burial better for the health of our planet, it won't contaminate the farms and plants and animals and earth around us, but it's also a lot cheaper. Natural burial was good enough for our ancestors for thousands of years, leaving the earth the way we found it. So it should be good enough for us. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions about the experience, I'm happy to answer after. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Sharon Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I live at 5723 Vasey Road, and this site actually borders my property. I think this proposed natural burial ground is a wonderful idea. Selfishly, if this passes, I have hit the jackpot, a protected wildflower meadow in my own backyard. The view out of our windows is the primary reason we purchased this property. With this, we would have no worries about urban sprawl. This is also an important space for the community. With climate change and development constantly encroaching on nature, it's nice to think this little patch of land will be restored and protected and offer a final resting place in nature. I also had never heard about natural burial grounds before now, but after researching other such cemeteries and reading the engineering assessment report, any worries I might have had have been more than addressed. I've been very aware of how much pre-planning has been done to ensure the environmental impact will be as small as possible. I know the planners have done their due diligence, have tested the water table, have carried out the studies. We've watched them all in the back field doing all this. I was worried this would invite traffic, and worse, traffic from Toronto. But knowing this cemetery will have a two-tier price structure, that gets rid of that. This is going to be a local cemetery. I watched the hydrogeological study unfold over the spring and summer, and I have absolutely no concerns for the safety of our water, even though we're right beside the cemetery. This natural burial ground will be a sanctuary for both the dead and the living. It will be a place where loved ones can be at peace, where family can visit and reflect. I hope it's approved, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Meg Whitten.
Your Worship and members of council, on March 31st, my 9-year-old had a friend sleepover. And when we woke up the next day, the yard was covered in ice, trees were down, wires were across the road. His mom texted. She couldn't get down the street. She didn't know when she could come and get her son. This is climate change. It's affecting families. At work, we were without power for more than a week. We had to shut down. One staff member had a flooded basement, one had a hole in their roof, one had no heat or showers for 9 days. A third of our staff was in crisis. This is climate change. We work outside. For the first time this year, we began documenting air quality days. 33 days out of 100-day season were canceled or cut short this summer because of extreme heat or wildfire smoke. This is climate change. It is affecting our work. What we're doing as a society is not working. Change is hard. People will complain. When the County of Simcoe went to bi-weekly garbage pickup, people complained a lot. but we now have the second highest green bin use in the province. Municipalities have the power to usher in change that works. By not embalming a body, a natural burial ground keeps poisonous chemicals out of the soil, prevents them from being passed to the water, plant roots, insects, prevents them from being eaten by fish, birds, and larger mammals, and traveling up the food chain. A natural burial ground keeps $2,000 caskets from being left in the earth. Perhaps more importantly, a natural burial ground reconnects the most natural human process to the earth. We are in the trouble we are in now because we have lost our connection to the earth. Let's normalize turning to the land in times of ceremony. And let's be brave enough to go first. Others will follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Crystal Riddell is online.
Okay. Ms. Riddell?
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, please continue or start whenever it's convenient, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of the Council. My name is Crystal Riddell. For nearly 20 years, I've been a licensed funeral director, and I'm the owner and manager of Essentials Cremation and Burial Services located in the Niagara region. I currently serve on the board of the Ontario Association of Cemetery and Funeral Professionals, and I am the president of the Green Burial Society of Canada. It is with great excitement that I join you today. Each month, I connect with Canadians from coast to coast, many here in Ontario, to discuss green burials. The most common question I ask or I hear is, where is the nearest natural burial cemetery to me, and how can I sign up? Your township has the opportunity to answer that call. Establishing a natural burial cemetery gives people this fulfilling final wish, and they will travel for it. It encourages local funeral homes to provide environmentally friendly death care options, choices that are increasingly being sought out by families, embraced by Indigenous communities, cultures, and advocacy groups. Across Canada, cemeteries that have adopted natural burials are thriving. Communities benefit from this choice, and municipalities that embrace it are recognized as leaders in sustainable and responsible land use. From my work with colleagues across the province, I could tell you that those standing with you today are among the most dedicated and hardest working advocates I've met. They are filled with passion, and with your support, they will see this project through successfully. A natural burial cemetery directly reflects Oro-Medonte's mission of environmental stewardship and the sustainable growth, ensuring a healthy environment for future generations. By embracing this project, the township lives its own vision of being a progressive, vibrant, and environmentally conscious community. I congratulate you for being an innovative county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
William Roberts.
Yes, Your Worship, members of council, again, at the outset, let me say how much I appreciate the work and diligence that you do as elected officials. I was one for 8 years, and I know how difficult and challenging it can be, so I appreciate the due diligence and the challenge you have in terms of making these decisions. But as an ordained priest for 40 years, I've got to tell you of the hundreds of funerals and burials and interments and what we now call celebrations of life that I have presided over. Many in small towns across Ontario. And I've seen over those 40 years enormous changes and the many creative varieties of ways in which loved ones want to say farewell to those who have died and passed on. And I've been confronted with those desires and those needs of family members as the pastor, the priest. And I've always really tried to be attentive to the beliefs and values and stories that the deceased and their community of family and friends want to honor. And increasingly, I've got to tell you, increasingly, those values, those beliefs and stories have to do not just with the care of the loved one, but of their care for the earth. So a natural burial ground to me fits in, as we've already heard, so many of alignment with and resonating those values that are increasingly what people want. And as a Christian, and as the stories that we celebrate as Christians, one of them I think you know is, remember when Jesus was born, he was wrapped in swaddling clothes. But when he died, he was wrapped in a shroud of linen and buried. And then you know what happened on Easter morning? The risen Lord was met by St. Mary Magdalene, who thought he was the gardener, that in fact they were in a garden. So our Christian story is that kind of, we began in this Garden of Eden, and that for many of us will end in a Garden of Paradise. So that to me, a natural burial ground is kind of downright biblical. And so let's celebrate that. So for these and many other reasons, I support the natural burial ground, and I urge you to support it as well for these many reasons that we present. Thank you very much. Amen.
Thank you.
The
Madam
last
Clerk.
registration that staff have received is from Patricia Scott.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Patricia Scott. I live in Victoria Harbor, Tay Township. With permission, I'd like to read a letter on behalf of Ann Truax. Hello, my name is Ann Truax. My husband Doug and I are owners of 6580 Line 2 North, Oro-Medonte. I am in favor of the rezoning request. This will be wonderful for the residents of Oro-Medonte and Simcoe County. When we were contacted about selling our property and that it may become a natural burial site, I was ecstatic and on board from the beginning. When I close my eyes and think of where my resting place could be, all I see is darkness. I don't hear birds singing, I don't feel nature. The only flowers that will be on my grave are the ones put on by loved ones, and maybe only for the first year or two. Even though I know God will be right there, loving and holding me, He still seems so far away. When I think of a natural burial resting place, I feel the warmth of the sunshine. I hear the birds singing, I see the beauty of the flowers that will be around me all summer long for years to come. I see trees, shrubs, bushes, and nature all around me. I feel the love of God holding me even closer. I pray this will be my resting place on the property that we have loved and worked so hard on for 45 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. Madam Clerk, is that all the registered speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to provide a verbal comment with respect to the application? Please step to the mic and just give your name, please, and then proceed when ready.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Neil McFadden. This is my wife, Rachel. We have the unique situation to be situated and living at the corner of 3 townships. Having been a former member of Oro-Medonte, your stewardship of the township has been great, and I've always trusted it. Rachel and I are, in one way, living a dream come true because we're building our dream house on my parents' farm, my family farm, and we're right across the road on Scarlet Line from everything that's going on. So while I can understand the ideology of the presentation and what they're looking to do, at the end of the day, after all these folks go home to their dream homes, we're going to be there with the additional traffic. The family's coming to visit loved ones passed, and it's an emotional thing. So I mean, Rachel and I are still gainfully employed. On the weekends is going to be our time after a hard day's work. We're going to want to sit on our porch and watch the sun. We chose that spot. We could have picked anywhere on the farm. We chose that because we look across the road and it's already beautiful. It already has flowers. It already has all of those things that we wanted to live with. Our neighbors are great. We love them, and we can understand where they're coming from as well. But again, at the end of the day, when all of these people are gone and nowhere to be seen, myself and all of these neighbors are going to be there as well. I think that given the situation, I'm clearly giving my opposition, and I think it would be better suited where there wasn't so many residential homes And I know it's right at the corner of the township, kind of tucked away in the back. I understand that. But if they're looking for those beautiful trails and a place to do it, wouldn't it make more sense in maybe a reforestation or something where there's no homes or nobody to worry about? Anyways, tough day for me with this. I'm doing my best. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience? Please come to the mic, just announce your name and then continue on. Please go ahead, yes.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time to hear us out. I'm no professional at this, but I'm very passionate about it. So I'm just going to go from the notes that I have, and I apologize if it's a little bit lengthy. I think I can get through it pretty quick. So, well,
sorry, could you just state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Donna McFadden and my husband, Ron McFadden, and we live at 5825 Vasey Road. Our farm is directly across the road from said property. So, while we appreciate the intention behind natural burial sites, we cannot see this as a viable location without serious concerns on several levels. The property is currently and has always been good farmland, as attested by the Truaxes saying that they farmed it for 40 years. We also have been there just under 40 years farming. Somebody forgot to tell us it wasn't good farmland. The property is currently and always has been good farmland. As farmers adjacent to this property, we're very concerned about the diminishing farms and farmland. There is mention of putting wildflowers and prairie grasses on the property. The local farmers spend thousands of dollars to keep these out of our crops. Introducing these would not be conducive to crop management, as birds and wind could spread these seeds. As farmers, we must make hay when the sun shines, so to speak, meaning we run equipment, spread manure, etc., day, night, weekends, and holidays. We don't stop farming for anything when we can get the work done. How is this going to be impacted when there is a burial? When we're running large equipment or spreading manure? Environmentally protected land on said property, how can this arbitrarily be changed? This land is protected for a reason. Now, I didn't know that it was going to be expanded. I don't know how that works. Environmental risks and water table contamination. The young lady stated that there was no issue to drilled wells. Almost everyone sitting here has a dug well. They're not deep wells. Certainly not 50 feet or anything close to it. So while natural burials may seem eco-friendly, it raises concern of leaching into groundwater. Most of the surrounding properties, including ours, have dug wells which are not deep. Bodies may contain residual pharmaceuticals, including antibiotics, painkillers, hormone therapies, and cytotoxic agents from chemotherapy and radiation treatments. These substances can persist in tissues and leach into the soil post-burial. Our concern is this leaching will migrate into aquifers, our wells, and nearby water bodies. The proposed site sits in a high water table area, which amplifies our concerns about leaching and contamination. Any runoff or infiltration from burial activities could directly affect our well water, soil quality, and the health of our livestock and crops. As active farmers, we rely on clean water and healthy soil, not only for our own consumption, but for the integrity of the food we produce. Burial depth is also a concern, as the bodies are not buried deep. With natural decomposition, there is the potential to attract predators. We do have predators. We have wolves, coyotes, bears, fishers, all on our farm. And we've seen them on our farm. Increase in traffic. As a farming community, tractors and equipment must use the local roads going from field to field or farm to farm. It is already hard enough to maneuver with the current traffic flow. The influx of travelers to this site will also further impede the local farming operations trying to get through their fields and farms. In the past, we were Medonte Township, and after the townships all changed, before that, we had applied and went through arbitration to sever 2 lots off our property for our sons. We were denied the request due to a concern of more traffic and wear and tear on the road. I'm assuming the now Oro-Medonte would have the same concerns with the burial site. In closing, we feel there are multiple areas of scrub brush, clear-cut bush areas, as well as many areas not conducive to good agricultural land that could be utilized for a natural burial ground that would be natural, quiet, and not impacted by surrounding activities. We're not opposed to the idea. It sounds like a beautiful idea. It just needs to be a site that could be utilized for that and isn't something that could be used for agricultural land that's disappearing so fast. If we ate today, thank a farmer. I mean, it's critical that we keep these farms going. We respectfully request that council reject or reconsider the siting of this natural burial ground to protect the current and adjacent properties from loss of good agricultural land and possible, well and aquifer contamination. Respectfully, Ron and Donna McFadden, and I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McFadden. Is there any other, and just so everyone knows the procedures, there will be no decision on this matter tonight. This is just a public meeting for us to get feedback from the public, and we appreciate, one thing we do appreciate, Oro-Medonte, is our great participants in public meetings, and I appreciate the fact that this is an emotional matter, and I do respect the decorum that you've and respect for each side of the argument that everyone is, because that's how we will hopefully move forward and find a solution that hopefully best fulfills and then a sustainable end result. So, is there anyone else in the audience who please come forward? Mr. Agnew, I recognize you. So
I still have to say my name, right?
Yes, you do, sir.
Sandy Agnew, 1305 Scarlet Line. My partner and I, Lynn Melnick, live about 1.5 kilometers south of this natural burial proposal, and we strongly support it, the application. The proponents of this application have had a very thorough environmental impact study done on this property that concludes, and I quote, "The proposed natural burial operation has the potential to not only protect natural heritage features and functions, but to significantly enhance the ecological integrity of the property and the surrounding natural heritage systems." My partner and I have recently donated 39 acres of our property, which was 49 acres, to the Couchiching Conservancy, so that the provincially significant wetland in the property would be protected in perpetuity. The property adjacent to ours is owned by the Huronia Land Conservancy, which protects that property as well. In addition, I have completed MIFTIP managed forest plans for 7 other adjacent properties on this branch of the Hog Creek. Furthermore, I and several other Hog Creek watershed landowners are working with the Severn Sound Environmental Association towards protecting the entire Hog Creek watershed as a whole. This proposal really enhances the ability to protect the environment and the ecological structure of the Hog Creek watershed. So we firmly believe that this application will enhance and further protect the ecological functions of the Hog Creek watershed, and we urge council to approve this application. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agnew. And if the next person wants to just walk to the mic, if there is another person, and we'll keep going through until we've heard from everyone who would like to speak.
My name is Barbara Barker. I live just down the road from the McFaddens. I've lived there for over 40 years. In that time, I've noticed
Could I ask you just, I apologize to interrupt, could you just move the mic closer down to so that you're speaking into it?
Last time I did this, it didn't work very well. Oh. Okay. Anyway, I live at 1640 Scarlet Line. I've been there, as I say, for about over 40 years. In that time, I've noticed at the corner of our property, at Basie Road and Scarlet Line, several accidents. Often. I can't count them. I can't tell you how many there have been, but there's been a lot. It's a very bad road there. There's a curve in the road. There's the tree lines block the exit from that road, and it's extremely dangerous. So in that case, I don't believe it's a good place to put this place. If you're gonna have, I believe, what is it? How many people are going to be buried there? That's gonna be a lot of traffic. But if you do decide to put something in there, that road needs to be changed, or you're gonna have a lot of accidents on your hands, because you cannot see. And if you have people coming from the city or anywhere that's not familiar with that intersection, there will be a difficulty, because I see it every day. My husband and I go out to that corner and sit there, and he looks one way and I look the other way, and we know it's clear, and we take off, and as soon as we do, there's a car coming around that bend at 120 miles an hour. So I think that's something that needs to be looked into. The other thing is the wells. I believe in that. The water there, you've got 4 corners. Oro-Medonte has 1 corner. Tay has the other 3. So the water on that road from the forest on Ron McFadden's property in the spring is very strong, very heavy, and it goes into the ditches. This last year, they dug it all out because there was so much water, it kept running onto the property on the corner. I believe her name's Lisa, but I don't know her last name. So there's definitely water coming through the bush. It may not be on this piece of property, but it's coming from these 3 sections, or at least this one section, our section. So there's definitely water coming across. So I don't believe that if they just did a test on the 1 section in Oro-Medonte, they haven't covered all their bases. They're not looking at what's around. So for that reason, I believe, no, we should not put this there, for those 2 reasons. And that's all I got today. And it's very hot in here.
Yes, thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment in regards to this matter at this time?
Good evening. Good evening, Council. Hi, my name is Tom Adams. I'm here with my wife, Laura Adams. We are immediate neighbors of the sub-subject property at 5794 Vasey Road. Imagine our surprise when 3 weeks ago via Canada Post, we opened a letter from Oro-Medonte advising us of our neighbors' interest of putting in a very large-scale natural burial ground. After the shock that we were overcome with, that was our first notification of it. I know that I saw in a presentation that there'd been some community consultation, but they neglected to include people who live directly across the street from this property. We object strongly to this proposal on many concerns. First off, we need to absorb this proposal that's come from out of left field. We're trying to come to grips with what is a natural burial ground. I have some questions as to, I saw in the presentation 4 feet by 8 feet buried, 3.5 feet deep. But this is a large lot. So what density of bodies, cadavers, corpses are we looking at in this whole capacity of the property? I know there's many concerns been issued about groundwater. Our property is slightly lower in elevation, and the runoff in the spring or after large storms is dramatic. Vasey Road becomes dangerous at times because of the amount of water running down onto our property from the Truax properties. So those are considerations. Our well is located 50 meters from that area, so we have great concerns about that. The area is known as an aquifer that's some of Canada's, the world's geological purest water. What are we doing to this water by including this many number? It's a very, very high density that I've heard but not had confirmed of corpses that will be interred on the ground here. So we have many concerns, what it's going to do to the community. We have nice little cemeteries in Waverly and in Vasey. These are respectful, small cemeteries. This is like putting a Walmart in our neighborhood compared to what we have existing and what we're used to and why we enjoy living in this community. So those are my concerns, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I live on line 2. I'm not directly south of this proposed land. I am on the north side, so, but I would like to voice my opinion.
Could you just state your name, please?
Sorry, Alda Da Silva.
Okay,
I
and
don't
Alda,
have
you
a-
may want to adjust the mic for you. The gentleman before you was
Yes,
much
and
taller.
I live on line 2. So I'm not prepared, I didn't prepare to speak, so it may be somewhat scattered, what I have to say, but what I'd like to highlight is that I too, just like this gentleman that spoke, was not aware of this until an hour ago or 2 hours ago, prior to me getting in the car and coming here. So I'm now somewhat versed on what these natural burials are about and what's going on with the this particular type of burial from the side that wishes to rezone this land. But that whole area is an area that has very good water. And just like the planner that was speaking stated, this water runs off at different levels. So some of the water can be tapped at 50 feet, some at 10 feet. It's really quite varied. And we have a lot of swamp, we have a lot of marshland that needs to be protected. And although I can appreciate the emotion of individuals that want to be buried on their land, I would like to be buried on my land too. I would appreciate the emotion of the subject matter because it is definitely not a bad idea. I think it's a good idea to have natural burials. However, it's in the wrong place. It's in the wrong place. Why? Because there are farmers in the area. There are individuals that live downwind from, or down in terms of the way the land is situated. They basically live south of it, and the topography of the land is such that their properties are below where this land is located, and therefore there has to be a runoff. I don't know who did the studies, what engineers did these studies, and what side they're on, but I would like to see the study itself and exactly what they mean by the aquifers or they're too far deeper. I mean, when we're dealing with a property that has environmentally protected land, property that has marsh on it, swamp on it, the water table is very high. If the water table is very high, it doesn't matter if you go down 2 or 3 feet, you're going to be reaching a water table. So that concerns me a great deal, not just for me, because like I said, I'm above this property. Everything's below my property, but for my community, people that live in the area. There's a cemetery on the corner of probably just 2 kilometers or 3 from this property. There's a cemetery, there are two cemeteries, and there's another cemetery just west of that on Vasey Road, another major intersection on line 3, between 3 and 4, there's another cemetery. Why another one is necessary? Like I said, although I understand it's what people are concerned about now, it's environmental, it's this, it's that, but are we also considering the land? Are we considering, yes, we're considering the animals and the flowers and everything's going to be really pretty, but how about the land itself? How about the land that's been farmed? How about the soil, the quality of the soil, the quality of the water that sustains life? Yes, the flowers may sustain bees, but the water under those rocks sustain life, and we cannot play with it. We cannot play with that water. So yes, there are many, we're in a large province. Canada is a huge country. We have tons of land. I mean, we're not short on land at all. Not in Ontario, not in any province. Why is it that we have to go and consider something like this right in the middle of functioning communities? Why not in a land that doesn't have all these issues, where we have an opposition? I'm sure there are lands in Ontario, in Simcoe County, that don't have an opposition. Probably, perhaps more remote, perhaps mixed use. You know, why does it have to be in the middle of a community that's trying to make a living, that's trying to have good quality water, good quality soil, and create life? So, you know, I'm interested in life, and of course I respect that we have to have the burial for myself and for my ancestors. I respect all those things, but we can't ruin life in order to appease the dead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience at this time? Okay. Seeing none, I will ask the planning staff if any additional correspondence has been received during the meeting.
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further has been received.
Are there any final comments, questions from the committee members in regards to this matter? Or to the staff or agents? Everyone's fine on the committee? Okay. Does the agent wish to respond or make a final comment on this matter? No? Okay. This completes the application process and closes this meeting. The committee wishes to thank all those in attendance for their participation through either your submissions or written comments or oral comments during the meeting, and will consider all matters in their decision. A copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the meeting in regards to this application. So in closing this up, I want to thank everybody for the professional decorum that you all did. I know that there's two opposing sides, but thank you for coming out and giving the feedback during this public process. And it'll come back to as a report and a hearing to staff later on for a decision. Thank you very much. Okay, so you know what? I'll pause for a minute for those who want to leave, and then we'll just, as the room clears, and then we'll start. But there's no need to take a recess. We'll just. Okay, now that the chamber is cleared, almost cleared, but you know, that was a great discussion. We'll now go to our public hearings under section 6. Application 2025-30, applicant Payne Reynolds, municipal address 23267 line 7 north. This public hearing is held in accordance with the provision of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to minor variance application 2025-A-30, submitted by Ian Payne and Victoria Reynolds on lands municipally known as 3267 line 7 north. Please be advised that the hearing is being digitally recorded for the purpose of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Service Committee make a decision on the minor variance application. Deputy Clerk, has there been any correspondence received on this matter?
Correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, September 15, County of Simcoe Transportation and Engineering Department, September 23rd, and Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, dated September 23rd, 2025.
Thank you very much. That was a much shorter list than the last one. I will now turn the meeting over to Chloe Patton, an intermediate planner, who will explain the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and any written statement received from the applicant. Ms. Patton.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw and committee members. Minor variance application 2025-A30 is for the property located at 3267 Line 7 North. The property is designated rural and green lands in both the county and township official plan. The property is on residential 1 and is currently being used for residential purposes. The purpose of the application is to build a detached accessory building, a garage, on the subject property. Detached accessory buildings are subject to maximum size restrictions, height, lot coverage, and floor area to ensure buildings remain secondary and subordinate in both appearance and use to the principal use on the lot. The applicants are seeking relief from Section 516 of the zoning bylaw, which permits a maximum floor area of 70 square meters, 735.5 square feet, where the applicants are proposing a total floor area of 135.4 square meters, 1,457.5 square feet. The proposed detached accessory building complies to all other accessory building provisions, height and lot coverage, as well as provisions for the R1 zone. The subject property has a lot area of 0.5 hectares, 1.2 acres, and is developed with a one-story single detached dwelling and 3 small accessory buildings. The subject property does not currently contain a garage for the storage of vehicles or large equipment, either attached to the dwelling or as a separate building. Photo 2 shows the public notice sign that was posted along Line 7 North. Figure 2 shows the applicant's site plan. The garage is proposed to be located behind the dwelling. Figures 3 through 6 show the elevation drawings for the proposed garage. The building is proposed at 2 stories, however, the top floor is partial and will be used for storage. Figure 7 shows the proposed floor plan. The area outlined in red is the first floor. It has an area of 111.5 square meters, 1,457 square feet. The area in green is the second partial story. For the purposes of floor area calculation, only the areas with a ceiling height of 1.8 meters, 5.9 feet or more are included in this calculation. The area in yellow, 23.9 square meters or 256.7 square feet, is the portion with a ceiling height of 1.8 meters or greater, resulting in the proposed garage having a total area of 135.4 square meters. The subject property has a split designation of rural and green lands, both in the county and township official plan, designations that both permit single detached dwellings and accessory buildings. Photos 3 and 4 show Line 7 North facing north towards Horseshoe Valley Road and south. This slide shows the existing buildings on the property. The proposed accessory building is smaller than the existing single detached dwelling, remaining secondary and subordinate to the principal use of the lot. Photos 7 and 8 show the staked location of the proposed garage facing south and east. I have put a red box on the drawings to show where exactly that will be. So, photos 9 and 10 show the existing vegetation on the subject property. As you can see, there's dense tree coverage along the interior south lot line, as well as the mature trees at the rear lot line, which will make it so the proposed garage will have minimal impact on the surrounding neighbors. It is recommended that minor variance application 2025A30 be approved subject to the following conditions on the basis that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and conforms to or is consistent with applicable planning policies and represents good planning. The recommended conditions are standard conditions for an accessory building. Thank you. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patton. Committee members, any questions for Chloe at this time? Seeing none, I will now ask the applicant Ian and Victoria Payne, who is registered, to speak to the application, and if they wish to provide any comments to, or to indicate if they have anything further to be added to the staff presentation. Oh, well, thank you very much, and thank you very much, Ms. Patton, for a thorough report on this matter. So. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions for the applicant or staff? I will ask, excuse me, I will now ask the township staff to advise of those of the public. Has anyone registered Zoom? I'll make this simple.
No, Mr. Chair, there were no additional registrations received.
Okay. And I take it there's no one else that I can see that wants to come forward and comment on this at this time. So. Is there anyone, do you want me to ask a question? Is there anyone in the audience? Procedurally, I have to ask anyone in the audience would like to provide verbal comments in regards to this matter. Seeing none, I will now ask the planning staff if any additional correspondence has been received during the meeting.
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further has been received, and I'd like to mention that I failed to introduce Chloe Patton, our intermediate planner, to committee members. So this is her first Development Services Committee meeting. So I'm sure she's chose a good one for her first introductory meeting, and appreciate your time and assistance in bringing her online with the committee meeting. And as noted later on the agenda, we are planning on giving her extra duties and responsibilities for the Development Services Committee. So thank you.
Well, I noticed. You know what, Chloe, welcome, and you've been a pleasure to work with in the limited time you've been here, and you know, you were here before everybody else, so it shows the keenness and promptness of being prepared. So, are there any final comments or questions of members of the committee? Does this application wish to respond or make any final comments? Silence is powerful. I think it was so. We will now hear a motion. Madam Clerk, can we have the motion read?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Shald. As a recommended one that DS 2025-101, Chloe Patton, Intermediate Planner, Minor Variance Application 2025 A30, Payne and Reynolds, 3267 Line 7 North, be received and adopted. 2, that minor variance application 2025 A30, specifically to permit the construction of a detached accessory building, garage, with an increased floor area of 135.4 square meters, 1,457.5 square feet, on lands municipally known as 3267 Line 7 North, Township of Oro-Medonte, be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-101. 3, that the applicant be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary Treasurer's signature.
Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. This completes the application process and closes the hearing. The committee wishes to thank all those in attendance for your participation. A copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the hearing in regards to this application. Thank you very much for your patience. I know we're an hour behind, but I do appreciate your patience. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so this takes us to public hearing application 2025 A-28, application Utley, municipal address 3521 Penetanguishene Road. This public hearing is being held in accordance with the provision of the Planning Act to obtain public comment with respect to the minor variance application 2025-A-28 submitted by Kyle and Hannah Utley on lands municipally known as 3521 Penetanguishene Road. Please be advised this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purpose of creating a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Service Committee make a decision on the minor variance application. Madam Deputy Clerk, has there been any correspondence received in regard to this matter?
Correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, September 17, County of Simcoe Transportation and Engineering Department, September 18 and September 23rd, Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, September 23rd, and Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, dated September 23rd, 2025.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, and by popular demand, I will turn the meeting over to Chloe Patton, Intermediate Planner, who will explain the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and any written statement received from the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw and committee members. Minor variance application 2025 A Utley is for the property located at 3521 Penetanguishene Road. The property is located within the Craighurst settlement area and is designated living area and environmental protection. The property is zoned agricultural rural and is currently being used for residential purposes. The purpose of the application is to build an addition to the existing non-complying one-story single detached dwelling and recognize the existing non-complying deck. The applicants are seeking relief from Table B4B, which requires an interior setback of 4.5 meters, 14.7 feet. The applicants are proposing 1.5 meters, 4.9 feet. from section 5.9.1, which permits an encroachment of 1 meter, 3.2 feet into a required yard. The applicants are proposing 2.3 meters, 7.7 feet. The variance will recognize the existing deck at 2.3 meters, 7.7 feet from the southern interior lot line. And finally, section 516.1B permits the enlargement, repair, or renovation of a non-complying building, provided that it does not increase the usable floor area in the required yard. The applicant is proposing to build a 36 square meter, 387 square feet addition to the existing non-complying dwelling, of which a portion is located within that required interior side yard setback. The subject property has a lot area of 0.1 hectare, 0.25 acres, and is developed with a one-story single detached dwelling and 2 accessory buildings. Photo 1 shows the distance between the subject property and the dwelling neighboring property to the south. Photo 2 shows the public notice sign that was posted along Penetanguishene Road. Figure 2 shows the applicant's site plan. The following slide shows an enlarged version to better see the proposal. The existing dwelling has a non-complying interior side yard setback of 1.52 meters, 5 feet, where 4.5 meters, 14.7 feet is required in the agricultural rural zone. As shown on the site plan, the proposed addition, which is shown in red, is not further encroaching into the interior side yard setback. The existing deck, shown in blue, also has a non-complying interior side yard setback. This encroaches 2.3 meters, 7.7 feet, where 1 meter, 3.2 feet is permitted. No changes are proposed to the location of the deck relative to the interior side lot line. The requested variance is just intended to legalize the existing non-complying setback. Figure 4 shows the existing and proposed floor plans. The proposed addition will occupy the footprint of the demolished area and extend 1.2 meters or 4 feet into the space previously occupied by the deck. Figure 5 shows the elevation drawings. The bottom elevation shows the proposed addition and deck that has been reduced by 1.2 meters or 4 feet. The subject property is located in the Craighurst settlement area and is designated living area and environmental protection in the township official plan. The existing dwelling is located in a living area designation which permits residential uses. Photos 3 and 4 show Penetanguishene Road looking both north and south. Photo 5 shows the existing development on the property. The red box on photo 6 shows the rear portion of the dwelling proposed to be demolished and replaced by the addition. Photo 7 shows the existing interior side yard setback in the grassy area immediately to the south of the property. The proposed addition is not anticipated to have a visual impact when viewed from Penetanguishene Road, as it is located to the rear of the building and on the existing footprint of the building. It is recommended that minor variance application 2025 A28 be approved subject to the following conditions on the basis that the application meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and conforms to or is consistent with the applicable planning policies and represents good planning. The recommended conditions are standard conditions for a minor variance application. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patton. I want to ask the applicant, Kyle Utley, who is registered to speak to the application, if they wish to provide any comments or indicate if they have anything further to add to the staff report. Or representation, I guess would be the proper word. Mr. Utley.
I have nothing to add. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Committee members, do you have any questions for the applicant or staff at this time? I will now ask township staff to advise those from the public, Zoom, in person, if they have registered to speak. Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Chair, we have not received any additional registrations.
Okay, and I take it, is there anyone in chamber that wishes to speak to this matter at this time? Okay. I will now ask, we've emptied out, that's why some of my colleagues are asking, but sometimes my eyesight's not the best. I want to make sure I can see to the back, but anyways. I will now ask the planning staff if any additional correspondence has been received during the meeting.
No, nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Are there any final comments, questions to committee members of the application, to staff? For the applicant, none? Does the applicant wish to respond to any or make any final comments?
No, I do not.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, may we now have the motion then, please?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Young. It is recommended, one, that DS 2025-100 Chloe Patton, Intermediate Planner, Minor Variance Application 2025A28 Utley, 3521 Penetanguishene Road be received and adopted. 2, that minor variance application 2025A28, specifically to permit the construction of an addition to the existing non-complying one-story single detached dwelling and recognize the existing non-complying deck on lands municipally known as 3521 Penetanguishene Road, Township of Oro-Medonte, be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-100. 3, that the applicant be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary-Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments with respect to the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? I see none. That is passed, Madam Clerk. So this completes the application process and closes this hearing. The committee wishes to thank all those in attendance for your participation. A copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the hearing in regards to the application. Mr. Utley, thank you very much for your time and have a great evening. Okay, so we'll now move on to application 2025-A-29, applicant Wolowski, municipal address 8817 Woodland Drive. The public hearing is being held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain public comments with respect to the minor variance application 2025-A-29 submitted by Walter and Susan Wolowski on lands municipally known as 817 Woodland Drive. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purpose of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Service Committee make a decision on the minor variance application. Madam Clerk, has there been any correspondence received in regards to this matter?
Correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, September 11, Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, September 22, and Township of Oro-Medonte Building Division, dated September 23, 2025.
Thank you very much. I'll now turn the meeting over to Andy Karaskakis, Manager Planning Services, who will explain the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and any written statement received from the applicant. Mr. Karaskakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minor variance application 2025-A29 has been submitted for lands municipally known as 817 Woodland Drive. The subject property is designated shoreline and is zoned shoreline residential in the township's official plan. And there is a dwelling that is currently under construction on the subject property. The minor variance application has been applied for the purposes of facilitating the construction of an in-ground swimming pool and concrete stairs that are leading to the dwelling and a retaining wall, which is proposed to be set back 15 meters, 19 meters, and 11 meters respectively from the average high water mark of Lake Simcoe. So the table on the screen there shows the specific sections of the zoning bylaw in which the requested relief is being sought from. So the 20-meter setback from the high water mark is being requested to be reduced firstly from the northeast corner of the pool to approximately 15 meters to the concrete stairs leading to the rear entrance of the dwelling, which is approximately 19 meters. And the accessory retaining wall to be set back approximately 11 meters. The second set of relief is to increase the square footage of the footprint of a deck and boathouse combined, which the bylaw requires 70 square meters or 753 square feet, and is proposed to increase the total footprint of the boathouse and deck to be 80.2 square meters, approximately 864 square feet. The image on the left shows the aerial photo of the subject property, which is outlined in red. And the image on the right shows a public notice sign posted in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The image on the left shows the official plan land use designation, which the property is designated shoreline, which is outlined in purple on your screen. And the existing zoning on the subject property is shoreline residential with an exception 2 provision on there, which that exception 2 relates to interior side yard setback reductions. The applicants prepared a site plan drawing which shows the proposed dwelling, the attached garage, the proposed boathouse, and the proposed pool location. So the image on the screen there, which shows the proposed 2-house dwelling that's under construction, outlined in black there. There are rear steps proposed to come out from the back end of the dwelling to go to the rear yard, which is outlined and circled in yellow. So that's the first set of relief to be that is requested by the applicant. The pool location, which is circled in red for your convenience, which again is the second set of relief being sought from the bylaw. And the southerly limit of the retaining wall, which is outlined in a dark blue star, and which kind of shows where the 15-meter setback from the high water mark is. So if you're using that as a context of where 15 meters is, it's to that corner of the pool. It's not really clear shown on this drawing here, but there is the setback from the high water mark of 20 meters is also denoted on that plan there. A little difficult to show there. The image on the screen here showing the boathouse that is being proposed on the property. So it's a 1-bay overhead garage door for the boathouse and a rooftop deck. The images on the screen showing views looking along Woodland Drive. The image on your left shows the view of the subject property looking from Woodland Drive. So as mentioned, the dwelling is presently under construction. And the image on the right shows the views looking along the southerly lot line looking towards Lake Simcoe. And this committee will see there is significant vegetation along the interior common lot line. The image on the left shows, again, the views along that southerly property line. So looking from the foundation and the frame of the current dwelling that's under construction. And the image on the right shows the location of the proposed swim spa in relation to the interior side lot line. And there is already poured foundation for the boathouse, which is a bit further to the left of the screen there. The image on the left shows the views looking from Lake Simcoe towards Woodland Drive along the southerly lot line. So you can see the dwelling that's under construction there, and that could be in front of it the proposed location of the swim spa. The image on the right shows a view from Lake Simcoe along the other side of the property, so on the north interior lot line, the existing dwelling, the abutting property that's adjacent to the subject property. A couple of here images show the boathouse and the dwelling that is currently under construction, and where the proposed swim spa location, the dwelling, where the stairs leading to the dwelling would be on the, I'll call it the right side of the dwelling that's under construction, and just to give a bit more context for consideration. Mr. Chair, planning staff have reviewed the minor variance application in the context of the 4 tests of a minor variance and are of the opinion that it meets each of the 4 tests and are recommending approval subject to the standard conditions outlined in the staff report. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karaskakis. Committee members, do you have any questions for Mr. Karaskakis at this time? No? Okay, I will now ask Agent Daniel Bilodeau, who's registered to speak to the application, if they wish to provide any comments or indicate if there's anything further to be added to the staff's presentation. Ms. Bilodeau?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, took somebody a bit to unmute me there. I was like, oh my goodness.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Danielle Bilodeau from Justin Sherry Design Studio. I'm here on behalf of the owners. I'll just quickly explain a couple things. So, as mentioned, we are proposing to install a 12 by 20 in-ground pool that is 15 minutes away from the average high water mark, where 20 meters is required. As shown in the photos, there is a single-family dwelling and boathouse that is currently under construction on site with an issued building permit application. But when we submitted this minor variance application for the pool, it was flagged that we also needed a minor variance for the concrete stairs and retaining wall, and the boathouse and deck area. So glad that that was caught at this time. I don't have much to add, as Andy explained the application thoroughly, but I did want to mention that we did reach out to the LSRCA prior to submitting this application to make sure they were okay with the placement of the pool. And they recommended the 15 meters, so we were happy to follow that. And then we do have an approved LSRCA permit for the dwelling, boathouse, deck, and retaining wall currently. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, committee members, do you have any questions for the agent or staff? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Bill. Just stand by, but there's nothing at this time. Madam Clerk, is anyone registered to speak to this matter?
No, Mr. Chair, there were no additional registrations received.
Okay. I don't see anyone in the audience that is willing or wants to provide verbal comments with respect to this application. I will now ask planning staff any additional correspondence. Has there been any correspondence received during the meeting?
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further has been received.
Are there any final comments or questions by the committee members? Does the agent wish to respond? Well, there is nothing to respond to, unfortunately. I'm just following the script because I don't do this every week, Ms. Bill.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, okay. We will now hear the motion, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Bard, seconded by Hutchison. It is recommended that that DS 2025-105, George Fedaboncourt, Manager Planning Special Projects, Minor Variance Application 2025-A29, Wilowski, 817 Woodland Drive be received and adopted. 2, that minor variance application 2025-A29 submitted specifically to permit the following setbacks from the average high water mark of Lake Simcoe: an in-ground pool with a setback of approximately 15.0 meters, 49.2 feet, concrete stairs leading to the rear entrance of the dwelling unit with a setback of approximately 19.0 meters, 63.9 feet, accessory structure retaining wall between the pool and boathouse with a setback of approximately 11.0 meters, 36.0 feet, and to permit a boathouse and deck with a combined footprint 80.2 square meters, 864.0 square feet on lands municipally known as 817 Woodland Drive, Township of Oro-Medonte be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-105. 3, that the applicants be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary-Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments regarding the draft motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? There are no opposed, so this completes the application process and closes this hearing. The committee wishes to thank all those in attendance for your participation. A copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments, provided oral comments during the hearing in regards to this application. So thank you very much, and we'll now move to 6D, application 2025-A-32, applicant Glad, municipal address 1631 Line 10 North. This public hearing is held in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act to obtain a public comments with respect to the minor variance application 2025-A-32, submitted by Dale Glad on lands municipally known as 1631 Line 10 North. Please be advised that this hearing is being digitally recorded for the purpose of the creation of a public record. Only after comments are received from the public, township staff, and requested agencies will the Development Committee, Service Committee, make a decision on the minor variance application. Madam Clerk, could you have you received any communication or correspondence on this matter, please?
Correspondence received from the Township of Oro-Medonte Operations Division, September 11, and Building Division dated September 23rd, 2025.
Thank you very much. I'll now turn the meeting over to Andy Karaskakis, Manager of Planning Services, who will explain the purpose and effect of the minor variance application and written statement received from the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minor variance application 2025A32 has been applied for on lands municipally known as 1631 Line 10 North, which is located at the northeast corner of Old Berry Road East and Line 10 North. The subject property has a lot area of 4 hectares and contains a 1-story single detached dwelling and a small shed. The subject property is designated rural and greenlands in the township's official plan and is zoned Mineral Aggregate Resource 2. The applicants are proposing to construct a detached accessory structure, a garage, and the subject property is zoned Mineral Aggregate Resource 2 in the township zoning bylaw, which permits a single detached dwelling. The applicants are seeking relief to the following section of zoning bylaw 9795. The minimum required exterior side yard setback for detached accessory buildings. The bylaw requires 7.5 meters or 24.6 feet, and the applicants are proposing 2.9 meters or 9.5 feet for the garage. The applicants prepared a site plan of the current and the proposed structures on the subject property. So the proposed detached garage is shown on a red hatched on your screen and shows the proposed exterior side yard setback, which is the lot line that is parallel with line 10 north. The front yard or the front lot line is the shortest side, which is by definition of the bylaw, the Old Berry Road frontage. The image on your screen there on the left-hand side shows an aerial photo of the subject property, which is outlined in red, which shows the surrounding context, which is a rural character in context with a small rural residential subdivision on the west side of line 10 north, which is Beechwood Crescent. Image on the right shows the public notice sign posted in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The images on your screen show views looking along line 10 north. The image on your left shows a view of the subject property and the area of the proposed garage. So the existing dwelling is shown on the kind of the right side of that picture, with the proposed garage kind of being buffered by the mature trees along the line 10 frontage. The image on your right shows a view looking north towards the location of the garage. So the existing dwellings on the right side of your screen, and in the distance there's a little garden shed and a coop, and the proposed garage is to be located in that area there. A couple more shots here showing the location of the proposed garage. So kind of in this area there on the left side of your screen, again buffered by mature trees. And on the right side shows the rear of the existing dwelling and the view of the existing tree line looking towards line 10. Mr. Chair, committee, planning staff have reviewed the minor variance application in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, specifically the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and is recommending approval. As the minor variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and is considered good planning, and is recommending approval subject to the conditions outlined in the report. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karaskakis. I will now ask applicant Dale Glad, who's registered to speak to the application, and if they wish to provide any comments or to indicate if they have anything further to add to the staff presentation.
Nope, nothing at this time.
Okay. No.
Nothing additional.
Thank you, Mr. Glad. Committee members, do you have any comments or questions for the applicant or staff? Seeing none, I will now ask the staff, has anyone registered to speak to this matter?
No, Mr. Chair, there were no additional registrations received.
Okay, and we currently have nobody in chamber to ask verbal comments regarding this matter. I will now ask planning staff if they've received any correspondence or have received any during the meeting.
No, Mr. Chair, nothing further has been received.
Okay. Are there any final comments or questions from the committee members? Seeing none, does the applicant wish to respond or make any final comments? Mr. Glad?
No, not at this time. Just thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion, please?
Moved by Young, seconded by Clark. It is recommended one that DS 2025-104, Andy Karaskakis, Manager, Planning Services, Reminder Variance Application 2025-A32, GLAD 1631, Line 10 North, be received and adopted. 2, that minor variance application 2025-A32, specifically for permission to construct a detached accessory building garage with a reduced setback of 2.9 meters, 9.5 feet from the exterior side lot line on lands municipally known as 1631 Line 10 North, Township of Oro-Medonte, be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-104. 3, that the applicant be advised of committee's decision under the Secretary-Treasurer's signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions, comments in respect to the draft motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? There are no opposed, so that is passed. This completes the application process and closes this hearing. The committee wishes to thank all those in attendance for your participation. A copy of the decision will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and anyone who has submitted written comments or provided oral comments during the hearing in regards to this application. And that is the final public hearing. So we are now on to reports of municipal officers. May we please have a motion for item 7A, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Young. It is recommended one that DS 2025-102, Andy Karaskakis, Manager, Planning Services, Rezoning Bylaw Amendment Application 2025 ZBA 24, Miller, 9 Mohawk Heights, be received and adopted. 2, that zoning bylaw amendment application 2025 ZBA 24, that would rezone the subject lands from residential 1 exception 113 R1 113 to residential 1 exception 374 R1 374 on Schedule A16 to zoning bylaw 9795 as amended to permit a bed and breakfast establishment on lands municipally known as 9 Mohawk Heights be approved. 3, that staff bring forth the appropriate bylaw for council's consideration. 4, that the applicants be advised of the committee's decision under the Director of Development Services signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Committee, the floor is open for any comments or questions. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? There are none. That is carried, Madam Clerk. And may we have a motion for item 7B, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Clark. It is recommended one, that DS 2025-106, Catherine McCarroll, Senior Planner, Rezoning Bylaw Amendment Application 2025 ZBA 34 and Consent Application 2025 B16, Roca, 85 Old Country Road be received and adopted. 2, that Consent Application 2025 B16 be approved to permit the creation of a new residential lot having a lot frontage of approximately 32.3 meters, 106.0 feet, a lot depth of approximately 83.5 meters, 274.0 feet, and an area of approximately 0.26 hectares, 0.64 acres, subject to the conditions as outlined in DS 2025-106. 3, that zoning bylaw amendment application 2025 ZBA 34, specifically to rezone the severed lands from the agricultural rural ARU zone to the residential 1 R1 zone on the lands municipally known as 85 Old County Road, Township of Oro-Medonte be approved. 4, that staff bring forth the appropriate bylaw for council's consideration. 5, that the applicant be advised of committee's decision under the Director of Development Services signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Committee members, I'll open the floor for comments or questions. There are none. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? None are opposed. That is carried, Madam Clerk. And may we please have a motion for item 7C?
Moved by Young, seconded by Bard. It is recommended one, that DS 2025-111, Michael Barton, Township Planning Consultant, Reofficial Plan Application 2024 OPA 02, and Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application 2022 ZBA 13, 15 Guest Road, Inc., 15 Guest Road, be received and adopted. 2, that official plan amendment application 2024 OPA 02 and zoning bylaw amendment application 2022 ZBA 03 submitted by 15 Guest Road Inc. for 15 Guest Road that would amend the township official plan to establish a site-specific exception under section 2.5 Agriculture and amend zoning bylaw number 9795 as amended by rezoning the subject lands from the agricultural rural ARU zone to the agricultural rural hold exception 375 ARU 375H zone to permit an aggregate depot that includes open storage of sand and stone to be used for local landscaping and construction projects. 3C containers in proximity to the stockpiled aggregate material and a small silo to be used for storage of Portland cement be approved. 3, that the required holding H provision not be removed from the zoning of the subject lands until such time as the appropriate site plan is approved by the township, the related site plan agreement is registered, and the township has received the securities identified in the site plan agreement. 4, that staff bring forth the appropriate bylaw for council's consideration. 5, that the applicant be advised of committee's decision under the Director, Development Services signature.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Members of the committee, questions or comments? Councillor Hutchison.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Through you, yeah, I have a few questions about this application. We're all familiar with it. We had a fairly large contingent of residents who live on Gust Road come and speak in the public meeting with regard to their concern on this operation. And so I would say some of the key points just from this report and what I recall from the public meeting is, you know, there was a lot of disruption with heavy trucks going up and down the road at all hours, causing noise and disruption, as well as concern around the condition of the road itself and the wear and tear on the road due to the vehicle traffic that was happening. So, you know, it is outlined in the report that the you know, that a haul truck as well as a delivery truck would make 1 to 2 daily local trips to deliver materials. But then further on in the statement, it says that the depot would operate seasonally from April to December, with daily shipments would vary according to local customer demand. So I think those are kind of a conflicting commentary. We don't know how much is going to be moved on a daily basis, and what does that look like? So I'd like to get a sense of how or if there can be some control on that, as well as the hours of operation. I believe I recall there was concern around the operation of the business happening very early in the morning and into the evening. And then I guess the bigger concern as well from my chair for the municipal asset of the road itself, you know, is it engineered, is it built to withstand the wear and tear that this movement of aggregate will have on the road? And is there the possibility that we could have an agreement with the owner of the operation that, you know, if the road is damaged or requires repair, that they would be responsible for that? So I'd like to see that come back to committee before we make a decision on this. So if it's possible, if my fellow colleagues are in agreement with my comments, perhaps we could look to defer.
Okay, no,
okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to ask, I just want to ask Mr. Spagnol something, being that I'll come to you, Councillor Schell. So the concern is, and I understand where Councillor Hutchinson's coming with the comments from when this was before council last time. Are those conditions something that are already in it, or do they need to be discussed with the applicant first in order to have clarity, so that we're all in agreement of how and what needs to be adhered to in order before passing this?
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. I think there are questions that have come about through the committee and from the committee. We do have the applicant on the line, as well as the planner who worked on the file. There are certain mechanisms that can be done to try to deal with potential road improvements, to deal with frequency of the operation, hours of operation, that can go into a site plan agreement through the site plan approval process. To your point about whether or not there need to be some discussion with the applicant as to how to address the considerations raised by committee, that would be beneficial. But again, I will point to the fact that we do have the applicant on the line as well as the consulting planner who's working on behalf of the township who prepared the report to answer any questions that committee members might have.
Okay.
So we're in your hands, Mayor.
Okay, no, thank you. Councillor Shell, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Through you to Councillor Hutchinson, I totally agree with your request, and I was going to bring it up myself. And further to that, through you, Mayor Greenlaw, through Andy Karaskakis, is this property now going to be used as an industrial? It sounds like it's an industrial operation. And, you know, what's the proper zoning on that right now? It sounds like there's a lot of residential.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Shell, the current zoning on the property is agricultural rural, and it permits a wide range of agricultural types of uses. The proposed aggregate depot is not a permitted use, therefore the applicants have applied for a zoning bylaw amendment to permit this use specifically on this property. So that's the application that's before the committee right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Young?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. Just going to Andy Karaskakis there. You said it's currently farmland?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Young. No, I said that this property is zoned agricultural rural in the township zoning bylaw.
Okay, so what's on the property right now?
Currently, there is, I believe, a silo and a coverall type of building used for the storage of aggregate material. There's no agricultural production or activity occurring on the subject property currently.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee members? So I at this point I see that Councillor Hutchinson's asked for this matter to be deferred until the conditions could be written within, and report back potentially at the next meeting. Is there someone who will second this motion? Councillor Shell? Okay, and so moved by Councillor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Shell. Madam Clerk, could you read the, well, actually, do I first need to ask that because we're asking for this to be, do the vote now with under the conditions, or do I have to get?
The deferral takes precedence,
okay.
Mr. Chair, so I would put the deferral motion on the floor for a vote.
Yes, if you please could.
Thank you. Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Shell. It is recommended, one, that DS 2025-111, Michael Barton, Township Planning Consultant, Reofficial Plan Amendment Application 2024 OPA 02, and Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application 2022 ZBA 13, 15 Guest Road Inc., 15 Guest Road, to permit an aggregate depot that includes open storage of sand and stone to be used for local landscaping and construction projects, 3C containers in proximity to the stockpiled aggregate material, and a small silo to be used for storage of Portland cement be deferred to allow the applicant the opportunity to address the comments raised at the October 1, 2025 Development Services Committee meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments in regards to the motion? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried to be deferred to the next meeting, please. Now, may we please have a motion for item 7D, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Shell. It is recommended, one, that the verbal information presented by Andy Karaskakis, Manager, Planning Services, verbal update, reappointment of Secretary Treasurer and Deputy Secretary Treasurer be received. Two, that Catherine McCarroll be appointed as Secretary Treasurer for the Development Services Committee. Three, that Chloe Patton be appointed as Deputy Secretary Treasurer for the Development Services Committee. And four, that the appointments be effective immediately.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments on that? I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Ladies, congratulations on your new responsibilities. And that ends our reports of municipal officers, and our next DSC meeting is scheduled for November 5th, 2025. Madam Clerk, may we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Clark. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 7:45 PM.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. We'll now continue the council meeting following the Development Service Committee meeting. So I'll change hats and I'll call this council meeting to order. May we please have a motion to adopt the agenda, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Hutchison. Be it resolved that the agenda for the council meeting of Wednesday, October 1, 2025 be received and adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. Are there any pecuniary interests to disclose at this time? Seeing none. May we have a motion for the draft minutes of the previous council meeting?
Moved by Bard, seconded by Young. Be it resolved that the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025 be received and adopted as printed and circulated.
Are there any changes to the draft minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion to approve the recommendations of tonight's DSC meeting, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Clark, seconded by Bard. It be it resolved that the recommendations of the Development Services Committee meeting held on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 be adopted.
All in favor? That is carried. May we have a motion for the draft bylaws?
Moved by Young, seconded by Shell. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2025-097 and 2025-099 be passed in open council on the first day of October 2025.
Any questions regarding the draft bylaws? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And may we have a motion for the confirmation bylaw, Madam Clerk?
Moved by Hutchison, seconded by Bard. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-100, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, be passed in open council on the first day of October 2025.
All in favor? That is carried. And may we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Moved by Shell, seconded by Clark. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 7:47 PM.
All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the beautiful fall weather we're receiving.